Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new video. Today I will be discussing how some people think there is no proof of God. Let me preface this video by saying that ultimately, we shouldn't expect physical proof of God in the same way we prove physical objects. However, we can still examine philosophical reasoning and historical evidence, especially the historical evidence surrounding Jesus. The reason I make this claim is that for God to exist, he would need to transcend space, time, and matter, something which we are all limited by. Therefore, there can be no physical proof except for proof of Jesus, which I will later get into. Last week in my history class, one of the people who I was sitting next to got into a debate with me, and he told me that he doesn't believe in God because there is no proof of him. He was referencing the Christian God, and I struggled to bring up examples that he considered irrelevant because they could have been made up. I will not mention his name for privacy reasons, but if I had prepared more for this debate, here's what I would have said. Question number 1. Why is there something instead of nothing? You see, in the field of philosophy, the idea of a God is very much accepted because everything that begins has to have a cause. But the idea of an infinite regression of causes just cannot happen. If a chain never has a definite start, it has never started, meaning that there has to be a fixed start of the chain. Likewise, there has to be a root cause for everything we see and know because it cannot just have infinite causes. Now, this cause would have to be powerful enough to create all this, meaning he would have to be beyond our limitations, bringing in the idea of God. Question number 2. Does objective morality exist? This question seems obvious when you first look at it, but then you start to wonder, is it really that simple? The answer is no. See, without God, all morals are just opinions that have been widely spread and believed by many people. If there is no God, there is no one above us to dictate what is right and wrong, meaning that if there is no God, objective morals would be insanely hard to justify, since everyone has different opinions. And even more, we still believe in some objective laws, such as the fact that murder is wrong and should be punished, which points to the evidence of a moral lawgiver. Now, there is also a very strong counter-argument to this, which is called the Euthyphro dilemma. It asks this question: are things good because God commands them, or does God command them because they are good? If the first one is right, then one could argue that morality is arbitrary because it depends on commands. If the second one is right, then one could argue that God is subject to some kind of authority because morality exists separate from him. But the thing is, none of these are correct because one could argue that goodness comes from God's nature. All of us have a certain type of nature, one that is inclined to messing up occasionally, and that's just a trait we share. Because God's nature is perfectly good, his commands reflect that goodness rather than inventing it. Finally, I'm going to get into the historical evidence of Jesus, starting with point number 1. There are non-Christian sources that still confirm Jesus. He is not only mentioned in the Bible, as Tacitus, a Roman historian, wrote that he was executed under Pontius Pilate, a fact that aligns with the Bible, and Flavius Josephus, a Jewish historian, who mentioned Jesus and early Christians. It's not just Christian sources that confirm Jesus' existence, which would lead to some claiming a lack of independent corroboration or not having multiple sources confirming the same thing. Point number 2. The crucifixion is one of the most agreed upon facts. Historians widely agree that Jesus was real and he was crucified. It was a brutal Roman punishment done for years, and it was certainly not fabricated. And finally, point number 3, a good analysis of the evidence points to his miracles as, for example, the resurrection. Now, many don't believe that this actually happened because it seems absurd. However, there are some objections to the denial of the resurrection. Number 1, they made it up. People don't usually suffer and die for something they know is false. Number 2, they hallucinated. Hallucinations are individual, not group experiences, which leads to an insanely low probability that all 4 of the Gospels, which confirm the resurrection, were written by hallucinating authors. And finally, number 3, the body was stolen. Again, people don't usually die for something they know is a lie. At the end of the day, you don't have to believe in God. But the idea that there's no evidence just isn't true. The real question isn't, is there proof? It's, what do you do with the evidence?